Ciao, buongiorno, wherever you are and whatever time it is in the world right now. Look at me. Win, lose, or draw, though, to be honest, I'm always packing colours and I'm always packing real fire when we come to talk to you on Inter Worldwide. And I am joined by two equally as happy guests as we discuss the post-match fallout of our big derby victory, the one that we needed the most. Ciao ragazzi, ciao Alessandro, come stai?
Tutto bene? Ciao a tutti. Everybody.
Lovely. And Mario, how are you, my friend?
What's up? What's going on? Bang bang.
Bang, bang. Not to be confused with pom pom, but rather the horns out, and the only horns that we need are Lautaro Martinez. We're going to discuss him and everybody else as we review the player ratings. And this is the first time we've done this on Inter Worldwide, but I thought, you know what? No better way to start than this match, because I think both of my co-panelists will agree it really was an outstanding performance from everyone on the pitch. Just going to start with Alessandro. Quick 1 minute summary. What were your thoughts altogether? And what's your reaction to the derby victory? How important was it?
That was super important, and I'm ecstatic. I think overall, when there is a game where we have to play with our heart more than with tactics, that this is the right team, basically. When we are like too nervous, when there is something on the line and we're trying to follow tactics, probably we're not that team. But like in this case, there's no way anybody can beat us.
Yeah, I would have to agree. The heart was there from start to finish. It was just so refreshing to see, to be honest, after such a turbulent time behind the scenes. Mario, he's going to have plenty to say. I can't wait to grill Mario, but just try and keep it brief quickly, man. What were your thoughts on the derby, and how important was this to react like this?
It's very important. I mean, we're a team that's kind of like in between making Champions League again, bowing out of Europa League. We've been up, we've been down, we've had problems, and I think to overcome all that, to show up for this big game, it's really important for the club as a whole. Milan's been on a hot streak. They've won, I don't even know how many games since the break, and here we come. We show up and we just freaking we took it to them. We played a fantastic game. All the players showed up. Um, what's his name? Vecino, the freaking clown over here, decides to show up at big games only. So do we play down a man? Do we, put in a youth player in his place to maybe to maybe do something, and then when we need to make Champions League, we need a goal in the last minute, we sub him on. It seems like he only shows up when we absolutely need him. Otherwise, he's a freaking useless waste on the field. And of course, Danilo D'Ambrosio coming to the rescue in the last minute.
Yeah, you couldn't wait to sneak that one in. Well, basically, we're just going to really quickly run through these player ratings and the performance of everyone. So I'll ask a couple of my co-panelists what they think. Samir Handanovic, we gave a 7.5. I thought he was pretty good. Mario, would you agree with about a 7.5? He didn't have too much to do, but, to be honest, he did make a few critical saves, especially towards the end. Don't forget those two towards the end. Mario, would you agree, 7.5?
I think it's fair. Maybe a little bit generous, but I think 7.5 is good for him. He's the leader.
Absolutely.
Goes by him.
Yep, absolutely. Alessandro, crossing over to you, the centre backs Milan Skriniar and Stefan De Vrij. We gave Stefan De Vrij a 7.5, Milan Skriniar a 7. I think De Vrij gets the nod because of his goal, also for looking like he really wanted to make amends for the Frankfurt error. Alessandro, 7.5 for De Vrij, or different?
No, that's perfect. I would agree completely. They completely annihilate attack, and and the two goals there is for sure not their mistake. So 7.5 sounds good.
Cool. The next one on the list, I know Mario's following along. Why don't you just take that one, man?
D'Ambrosio, what are you getting? 7?
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit that's biased. I would have given him like an 8.5, 9. Man of the match.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely no bias around here.
Definitely not.
I'm going to take the next one because speaking of bias, man, I'm biased left, right, center when it comes to Matias Vecino, but I've given him an 8. I thought it was the best game he's ever had in an Inter jersey. The guy looked like he had 90 more minutes in him by the time it was done, to be honest. I particularly liked how ferocious he was, not just in the middle of the park, but you saw him making challenges on the sidelines as well. Where's this guy been? Just keep him here in that form. To be honest, I wouldn't be against having him as a bench player for next season. But to be honest, when he puts in slight performances like this in big occasions, he keeps that price tag justified. So, you know what? If an offer comes along around the region of 15 to 20, 25 million, got to cash in on Matias, in my opinion. Let us know in the comments if you disagree with that and if you're a little bit, sentimentally attached like Bruno. Next one, Alessandro Roberto Gagliardini. To be honest, a shaky start, but man, did he grow into the game. We gave him a 7. What do you think?
Again, I cannot not agree. And also, I think we skipped Asamoah. That
Probably
maybe
did.
it wasn't maybe it wasn't the biggest name there, but he did a pretty good job against Suso. And knowing the history of Suso against us, that wasn't too bad.
Well said, yeah. What about Gagliardini?
Giardini, I honestly I like the guy, and I think during this season Spalletti didn't manage the player in the best way, and maybe Gagliardini is the symbol of this mismanagement from Spalletti. But the guy is there, and if you give him a little bit of space on the field, that's what he can bring, and that's not bad.
Cool. Sounds good. Marcelo Brozovic, gave him a 6.5. Had a little bit of slow movements and his fitness did seem off. But to be honest, whenever he has an off game fitness wise, I always let it slide because the guy has been moving planets for us this season. Mario, do you reckon 6.5 is a fair score for Brozovic considering he departed earliest out of any of our midfielders?
Yeah, because I mean, you could see how evident it was that we needed him in the midfield against Frankfurt. When he's mediocre to a good, it makes a difference, and then when he's great, it's even better. 6.5 is fine, no qualms.
Cool.
He was also coming back from the injury, so
yeah, he was. He really was. Mario, you can take the next one, mate. Matteo Politano keeps impressing, doesn't he?
I mean, he's doing what we've needed him to do. He's cutting in. He's making dangerous balls. He's taking on the defenders, and he got us the penalty to basically win the game. So, 8, solid.
Absolutely. Alessandro, you're up next. Ivan Perisic, we gave him a 7. We said glimpses of last year's Perisic tonight. He fought for every ball. To be honest, in games like this, he does look like a little bit of a leader, Alessandro, doesn't he? He looks like since the absence of Icardi, he is having probably the most vocal influence in that dressing room.
Yeah, even the 7 I think is a little bit generous. I would give it a 6.5. I seen most recent games where he did better than the derby. But in general, I mean, 6.5, 7, it's fine. I'm really curious to see what's gonna happen after the break, but that's another story.
Yeah, and our final one tonight is El Toro, Lautaro Martinez, our favorite wonder kid. Start with you, Mario. We gave him an 8.5 just for being his diehard self. The assist was great, stepping up for the penalty, which wasn't a great penalty, but hey, all is well that ends well.
Hey, the ball went in. That's all that matters. A good penalty is a penalty that ends up in the back of the net. I don't care. He's just proving what we've needed for a long time. He does it all. He's the modern striker I've been asking for years. He gives so much to this attack, whether he's on his best day or if he's just having a average game. It's just so much better. 8.5 is it's good. If not, I'd shoot as far as a 9 because if Icardi can do nothing for 90 minutes and then tap in a ball with his eyes closed with an open net and get a 8.5, 9, then what are we even rating it at this point?
Absolutely, man. Well done. Our substitutes, Candreva, Ranocchia, didn't get a vote because of their short playing time. Love seeing Ranocchia being brought on, though, towards the end. Although, when he comes on, you just feel shaky as hell. Borja Valero gets a 6. I'll comment on Borja Valero when he came on. He looked pretty complacent. There was a couple of times where he beat a couple of men in midfield and was able to get a ball out to the left-hand side. I'll ask Alessandro first. Would you still enjoy Borja Valero making cameos off the bench next season once our midfield is sorted?
Nah.
Yeah.
No,
That's a
not the
tough one.
biggest fan, honestly. If we can find a better placement for Valero, I wouldn't be so sad.
Cool. Mario?
Yeah, I don't really see us needing him next season. He's going to be like 35 years old. He's slow. He can't really put in more than a half hour, 45 minutes. So at that point, it's just a roster spot, and I think we should be moving past that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, finally, because we're conscious of time, Mario, I'll start with you. The Derby victory, where does it leave us going forward? Do you think it's really the kickstart that we need to end the season positively? Do you think we're going to see a shift where Inter starts to win a few more points than Roma and Milan and break away? What are your thoughts altogether from the fallout, mate?
Before I go into that, I would just like to name my man of the match,
Absolutely.
Mauro
I'm really...
Icardi.
Oh, okay, cool.
I give him a 10 for not showing up.
Yep.
Giving the spot to Lautaro there. Okay, but moving on. I think this could be a good starting point for the rest of the season. I guess you could say, because all we have left to play for is making the Champions League, and we're still in third place now, 2 points ahead of Milan. So it's not like
There's
the
no
season.
disaster.
It's not a disaster. It really hasn't been to, if you really want to be honest, because third and fourth place, you're in Champions League. Whether or not we do better than last season, whether or not we do worse than last season, third and fourth place is Champions League. That's all that matters at this point. We're not going to finish second because Napoli is the second best team in Italy, obviously by miles.
True.
It's not even a competition. So
Absolutely.
if we can finish in that third spot, I think we're successful. If we finish the fourth spot, it's a little bit of a letdown, but still a successful season, barring that we crashed out of Champions League, Europa League, and Coppa Italia. But still, you made Champions League, and that should be the focus more than anything.
Cool. And Alessandro, do you think that the derby, is it going to be able to kickstart us in the right direction to get some easy points, or do you just see us slipping back into a dogfight till the last day?
This is a very interesting question, and if we were another team, that would be like way easier to answer. But since the derby came right before a 2 weeks break, that's the 2 weeks for a human being are like 2 years for an Inter supporter, because so much can happen in these 2 weeks. We are talking about Spalletti, Icardi, a bunch of dramas in the locker room. So Nainggolan, who knows how many injuries or whatever. So I have no idea what's gonna happen before the next game. And the only thing I can say, I'm kind of happy that we have this break, because if we were gonna play right after this derby, probably in the next game we were gonna lose, knowing Inter and how we are emotional, and as soon as we win, we are the best ever, and then next game we lose the 3 points, or we draw with some stupid team. So all in all, I think we will make it to the Champions League for next year. If not third, we should still be able to get in the fourth position, just because Lazio, Roma, Atalanta, Sampdoria, just you name it, behind us, they're not so consistent. So I think we should be able to make it.
Yeah. And so what we're looking at discussing right now is, and thank you if you've been tuning into all the content, we heavily, heavily appreciate it. We think that there's a little bit of a fallout from this derby, but we're not too sure if it's going to change the trajectory of our manager for the rest of the season. So the big questions today are, do you think Luciano Spalletti has saved his job by winning the derby if he can continue to propel Inter into a Champions League position? Or do you think the damage is kind of done managerially and his time is up? We'll also be looking at the Icardi situation, but we'll start with Spalletti. Mario, about the derby, a lot of people saying that it was more just passion and flair from the players, nothing really to do with tactics. Does your outlook on Luciano Spalletti change at all, my friend?
Not really. He prepared the team as much as he could, and obviously the the nerves and the energy of being in the derby make a difference. But they were prepared. He put out a team that won, and I don't know. I I think it was the players as much as the coach. So I think everyone played their part, and that's why we won.
Yeah, absolutely. Alessandro, do you think that the outlook of the derby, if it does change the trajectory of our season and we do comfortably qualify for the top four, do you still see a way back for Luciano Spalletti, or do you also think the damage is done for him?
No, I think he is gone at the end of the season. There is no doubt in my mind. All the dramas that we have seen in this season, I think they go back directly to Spalletti and the way he managed the team, players, and he always did. Because if we go back in time, he did the same at Roma with another captain at the time, Totti, and he did the same at Zenit with Hulk. So
Yeah.
it's just the way he operates, and instead of doing like another Inter coach like Mourinho, um, when so in this case we have Spalletti doing something completely different. That is creating inside our team three different groups and fighting each other, pointing finger at each other, and that's fucked up. We should all row together in the same direction. Instead, we are like trying to go to completely different direction, and then at the end of the season, we see the result.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, for me, I don't think it's turned a corner at all. I think that the results till the end of the season will really dictate how we go forward as a club in terms of qualifying for the Champions League. I think that we'll be banking on the inconsistencies of other sides, and we will pretty much get there by default, almost, if I'm allowed to say. But I do think his time is up, and I think personally Marotta and Zhang have had their mind made up for a long time, and that there were just a couple of coaches on standby, and Jose Mourinho just might be the number one target. When it comes to Mauro Icardi, the opinions are divided still, and the headlines change every single day. Mauro Icardi, ex-capitano, nowhere to be seen in the squad list, nowhere to be seen at the San Siro, but always to be seen on social media. The latest headlines is that he said that Milano is always black and blue on his Instagram account. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it to a couple of our panel members today, in Alessandro and Mario, to talk a little bit about the altogether situation. Has the media kind of played their part in its role? And do people not know the full story? Well, we'll ask a couple of our team members. Alessandro, how you doing again, my friend? And what is your current take on the Icardi situation post-derby?
I'm good, very good, thank you. I just want to point out a couple of things. That first of all, so far nobody seems to know the entirety of the story. There are like pieces missing here and there. One of them, so far I heard just from an ESPN journalist, Gabriele Marcotti, was saying the other day that basically after the last appearance of Icardi at San Siro, the authorities asked him to avoid to be present at the stadium because Otherwise, the reaction of the supporters um, was too bad and too hard for them to control. So they asked him not to be present for the future games, and nobody ever said that publicly. And again, there is this kind of like creating a story just for somebody's good. In this case, I would say Spalletti is the one that get the best out of it. And I don't know. Honestly, at the end of the season, if he stays or not, he has pros and cons no matter what. If he stays, we have a reliable striker, but also kind of spoiled kid to take care of. If he goes, we can fix our budget, and but we need to find another good striker to get on Lautaro's side. So no matter what, I just hope Spalletti goes.
All right, we're throwing it over to Mario, who's probably going to disagree with a couple of those, being, the president of the Icardi fan club over there in NYC and just worldwide, really. You can follow him on iloveicardi.com. Mario, how you doing?
There's actually the Facebook group Icardi FC that I run that is all memes, but that's a different story. No, I think that this whole thing with Icardi is just it's just him being a child and not getting what he wants, so he's just holding out, and it is retarded. It has to stop. Spalletti's got a team to run. He's got 20 people to manage. He can't just make sure one is happy. He has to make sure they're all happy. And if one guy's making half the locker room happy and the other half not happy, that's a problem. It just seems like it's going back to the time before we won the Scudetto and the Triplete and everything. Ibrahimovic wrote in his book that how divided the locker room was, and of course Santo Zlatan over here saved the day and brought everything together. But no, that's what Mourinho did actually. No, but it just has to stop. Icardi, he's got to go. He's a child. He's worth a lot of money. Him and Perisic, both problems. You can sell them both, build a whole new team, and we win from there. I think that solves everyone's headache at that point. Spalletti can stay. I like him.
Today's Gazzetta, the first page of the Gazzetta today shows Icardi and Dybala switching teams, and I wonder. I thought that Dybala and Conte had one season together, but I was wrong. Actually, Dybala was one of Conte's players on the Conte's list. Sorry. And he arrives at Juventus while Conte was leaving. So, and I'm saying just Conte's name, I just put it out there for next season.
No correlation
but
whatsoever.
No, not at all. But I'm curious to see if everything goes in the right place. I can totally see Marotta's hands behind all this, because at the end of the day, you find the same people that were supposed to be at Juve a few years ago. Conte, Dybala, Marotta, and I think that can be interesting.
Look, that's what it takes to get Icardi out. I'm on board.
I wouldn't be against it at all. Whenever I hear those Dybala and Icardi swap rumors, I go, geez, man, I don't know what Juve are thinking with that, because that would be a really big win-win for us. Not only that, the rumors are that they would include cash. Let's talk a little bit about Mauro Icardi and how he's landed once again in training. He didn't look too happy getting back into the San Siro back at the Appiano this morning. A little bit of 16-year-old girl attitude on him. Mario, what do you think about the ex-Capitano rocking up at a time where so many of our significant first-teamers had already departed for their own international duty, mate?
I think it's just a scam to look good in front of in the news, pretty much. Now that everybody's gone, I mean, he's by himself over there. Who's left? Ranocchia, maybe. That's about
Bernie.
it. And then maybe like a youth team or something like that.
He's there, bro.
And so, what happened?
I said Bernie is there.
Oh yeah. So they can take shots at each other, I guess, back and forth, full field 1v1s. I mean, he just came off a torn ACL supposedly, and now all of a sudden he's back in training. Oh yeah, it's a bunch of hoopla, if you ask me. He's just trying to save face at this point.
Absolutely. Alessandro, your thoughts? Would you echo what Mario is saying?
Well, yeah, the Dr. Volpi released an interview where he was saying that basically he's gradually going back to training, but following the usual steps. Like right now, he's doing part of training with the team and part of personal rehabilitation. So when he joined the field today, Spalletti was pretty clear saying you're gonna do just a little bit of field practice and then you're going back inside and do your usual exercises since you're injured. And then again, Volpi was saying that it's not completely clear if he's gonna be able to play or be available for the Lazio game, since they cannot really say the level of pain is in. So yeah, everybody's just playing along with him, but not buying it. It's like, all right, you're back now. Since you're injured, you're gonna do like everybody else, and slowly coming back in the group. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think the club.
Go
on, Mario.
You know what his injury reminds me of? You ever see Talladega Nights with Ricky Bobby?
Yeah, yeah.
When he thinks he's on fire, but he's really not, and then he goes for months like in a wheelchair. That's Icardi. A freaking joke.
So basically what you're saying is that he needs to get stabbed in his left thigh to realize that he wasn't actually injured, and now he needs to come back.
They can do a lot more than that BS.
Man, I think at this point, the whole club is just trying to save face from the top down, whether it's the president, whether it's the coach, whether it's Bernie as the choice goalkeeper. Everyone's going to say the same thing. Everyone's just looking to save face at the moment, which, in my opinion, is the right thing to do. We've come off the back of a derby win. We've come off the back of a horrible off-field drama incident, and we're still keeping our head above water. So saving face at this point would be the most important thing.
I would like to be a fly in the locker room and see the reaction of Andanovic and Icardi, like the captain and the previous captain face to face. It's like, it's gonna be awkward.
Yeah, awkward and interesting. One thing that's also awkward and interesting is the absolute BS transfer rumors that go around. So moving away from the Maurito discussion so that we can end on something a little bit more interesting, it appears that every single time there's an international break, it appears that every time that the news is a little bit slow, Milan Skriniar's name races to the top of the headlines, whether it's a swap deal for Barcelona with Rakitic, as Calciomercato is reporting this morning, whether it's a 110 million euro bid from Real Madrid because Zidane doesn't see any option, as Marca was reporting yesterday, it appears that Milan Skriniar is not looking to move, as his agent and himself has reiterated so many times. It just seems the media can't get this story out of their mouths. Mario, is Milan Skriniar going anywhere, or are they just filling headlines again? Oh, I think we've actually lost Mario. That's all good. I'll go straight to Alessandro, even just as good. Alessandro, Milan Skriniar's name still in the headlines. Do you think he's going anywhere, or are we just trying to fill headlines at this point?
They're just trying to fill the headlines, just trying to do their job and write something when nothing's actually happening. And for us, it's Skriniar, it was Icardi. I can see the same happening for Napoli and Koulibaly or Alan. And every team has their players, and the journalists are just trying to do their jobs. And if nothing is happening, they need to make up something. And who knows? Once every 100 times, maybe they have a good in. But I don't think that's the case for Skriniar.
No, I don't think that's the case at all. He just shows way too much heart, way too much passion. And you know what? He looked one of the happiest on the pitch at the end of the derby. I think he's getting just as sick of the headlines as we are. So, to be honest, in my opinion, Milan Skriniar will be signing that new contract. The rumors were that in January, the start of January, we offered him a $3.5 million wage per season deal. But even our club knew that he wasn't going to accept that. That was more just the foundation starting point of discussions. And we're looking to offer him $5 million per season plus bonuses. Would you agree that $5 million plus bonuses is a pretty good contract for Milan Skriniar? Alessandro, you know, me personally, I'd just put a blank piece of paper on the table and say, write a number, my friend.
I don't know what you're saying. It keeps cutting off.
Sorry, I said, do you think $5 million per season plus bonuses is a good deal for Milan Skriniar?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I mean, as one of the best defenders in Serie A and probably in Europe, I think so. And if he's asking for more, I would give him more. I wouldn't have any problem. I think is the best player in our team at the moment. So
yeah,
whatever he wants.
That's exactly what I was saying. You know, give him a blank check and tell him to write a number. In terms of other transfer rumors, we have got a few little ones flying around to fill the headlines during international duty. Calcio Mercato this morning is reporting that Beppe Marotta is looking to steal Douglas Costa from under Manchester United's noses. Now, we know that Douglas Costa hasn't exactly been impressed this season with his field time at Juventus. He's been made, a second choice to Bernardeschi, and even a lot of the times has to sit the bench for the whole 90 minutes without getting any field time whatsoever. Douglas Costa was in the headlines for all the wrong reasons towards I'm pretty sure it was the back end it was the start of this season for his little spitting episode. Alessandro, what's your opinion on Douglas Costa leaving Juventus for the rumored price tag of approximately 50?
In general, I think he's an amazing player, and I wouldn't mind at all to have him come in and join our team, even though it really depends who is gonna be our coach next season, because Douglas Costa is not the kind of a player like a Perisic that can help in defense. Is more like I don't want to say a striker, but it's a winger with attacking propension. So it really depends how we're gonna play next year. But overall, he is fantastic. He is, technically speaking, is one of the best in the Juventus roster. Before Ronaldo joined Juventus, it was playing a lot, and it was like between Dybala and Douglas Costa and Bernardeschi. They were the three technical player, and then you bring in Ronaldo, and so you need to make space for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Mario is back on the wrap. Let's see if he can stick around for a little bit. Mario, Douglas Costa seems to be on the chopping block at Juventus. Now, there's got to be something personal going on there because, as Alessandro just said, and I would agree, he is a great player. He's such a good technical player. And for the fee of about €50 million, you'd really struggle to think why more clubs aren't jumping down their neck. Maybe something's been sorted already. Mario, what are your thoughts on Douglas Costa, and would you want him as an Inter player?
I freaking love Douglas Costa, and for $50 million, I take him in a freaking heartbeat. I don't care what's going on. I don't care who he spit at. I want him on my team. If Perisic goes, he's the perfect replacement. He's one of my favorite players in the game right now. So if we sign him, it's going to be a perfect fit. Love at first sight.
Fantastic. And you know what? I'd have to agree that 50 million, when I look at that price and I see Fiorentina throw up bullshit numbers like 100 million for Chiesa, man, I know what decision I'd be making. Let's talk a little bit about Chiesa for a second. He's definitely looking for a bigger club next season. But I don't know if it's just the international break, boys, that makes these numbers fly around. But I wouldn't be putting 60 on the table for Chiesa. I don't like his prima donna style of play. I don't like the way he hugs the touchline. And I really just don't think 70, 80, and now 100 is anywhere near a justified tag. Alessandro, just a quick minute or two on Federico Chiesa. As the price goes up, are you more inclined to just keep saying no Chiesa for Inter?
Yeah, not only that, but I didn't know the beginning of the season of that he was kind of player that is propensity to fall a lot and look for contacts in the area or anyway a lot of free kick. And I know it's part of the game, especially now, but I personally hate those kind of players. It's another Quadrado, Inzaghi back in the day. It keeps falling, and I don't want that kind of player in my team, honestly. And especially for this price. I mean, for the same price, we can get some really awesome player out there. And I understand he's young and he's talented, but we were saying the same thing about Luis Alberto and other players last year, Milinkovic Savic, and then this year their price is cut in half. So I don't think it's worth it.
Absolutely. Mario, would you agree with myself and Alessandro when it comes to Federico Chiesa, or are you a fan?
I'm a fan of his. I have nothing against him or the way he plays. Sure, yeah, he dives a little bit, but if you're willing to keep a player like Icardi on your roster, then you should have no problem with Chiesa whatsoever. For the price tag, give him a year or two. That shit's gonna go from like 100 million to like 13, just like how it did with Berardi and just like you named Milinkovic Savic, Luis Alberto. After a year or two, they just become old news and kind of just fall off, So I feel like Fiorentina is just trying to cash in while they still can, get as much money until it's basically somebody else's problem.
Seems to be a trend in Serie A with players like Chiesa, Berardi, Belotti, Milinkovic Savic. One good season and the inflation is just right there until they're brought back crashing down to earth. And I think that's a reflection.
Belotti's had a fruitful career.
Go on.
He's had a fruitful career as a Palermo player. Yeah.
Well, Belotti still possesses great attacking talent, in my opinion. But just remember, 2 seasons ago, there was bullshit price tags of up to 80, 85 million for his services. And you know what? I'd go back to what Alessandro said. He's like Chiesa. He's a player that thrives a lot on form. But, we've got to remember the clubs that these players belong to, Torino and Fiorentina, they are clubs that don't have the kind of momentum and don't have the kind of success as some of the bigger clubs. So they're always going to be subject to the form of their team. Would you agree, Mario?
I would agree, but at the same time, Chiesa never played for Palermo, and that's his problem. If you go to Palermo, you're worth 100 million in my eyes, no matter what.
There it is. Right there. No bombs. Only truth bombs from Signor Gaglia. What are we talking about next to finish off? Oh, yeah, international duty. I'm sure we all love international breaks. To be honest, I don't, but we needed one more than ever. Alessandro said earlier on in the podcast that, as a team like Inter, we get emotionally attached to the victories sometimes, and that if we had a game coming up after the derby, we probably would lose that game just because we're still thriving on the emotions of before. So that obviously needs to be taken into account. But the international break at the moment presents itself with a few fixtures for Inter players. Matias Vecino got 61 minutes under his belt for Uruguay. And you know what? That's probably a good thing because rumors are circulating that Sarri and Chelsea are watching Matias Vecino again. Alessandro and I have spoken about this many times before, and most of the people know what side of the fence we sit on. But Mario, if an offer comes in for Vecino, do you say yes or do you say no, seeing as though the offer's probably still going to be juicy around about the 20 million mark?
I would do it for like 20 million. I have no qualm selling him, but my only problem is we have to be able to replace him, obviously, because we're thin in the midfield, and if we're not going to replace, we're not going to buy 2, maybe 3 midfielders to counteract the selling of players like him and whoever else. It's going to be a problem for next year, especially now that we're going to be in Champions League again. We're going to need the depth, and if we don't have 6, 7 midfielders to rotate, it's going to become a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll also have 2 more European spots because remember we were hit with a sanction from UEFA that prevented us from including 2 more members in our squad for Europe. So we'll have those 2 extra spots next season, which have to be filled with midfielders. I, for one, wouldn't mind seeing Vecino come on the bench in these kind of situations where he can put in a good 30-minute shift and, fatigue the opposition and maybe nick a lucky goal. But other than that, I just think he offers nothing. Alessandro, have your thoughts changed after the derby, or are we still on the same side with Vecino?
No, it's always the same thing. It's like one of those players that they make like a huge game, and then they sucks for like 5 others. It's like there's no consistency, and I'm actually I can't deal with that stuff anymore. We need, especially in the midfield, some consistency, and I would like to see the same in the right back position, but that's all a different story.
That's actually coming up nice and soon for all our listeners.
Right
because wait, Mario, have you got something to say, sir?
Leave the right backs alone. Danilo D'Ambrosio everybody out of position.
Sure. I think it's been a long time coming, but we need to get that special debate with Mr. Rivas coming on, and I'm sure we'll have some time to do it soon. Guys, that's all we're going to have time for today. We apologize for getting this podcast out a little bit late, but we had some technical difficulties. With the time lapse between the international break and Lazio, you can expect to see some content and material going up on our YouTube in the next few days from Bruno, who's made his fantastic return to Inter worldwide. And I just want to thank my awesome panel once again for sticking through this. Alessandro, I hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining us.
You too. Have a good weekend without games.
Yeah, look, I just feel so much less anxiety this weekend. It's good. We really needed this international break, man. Mario, thank you for joining us, my friend, and we will speak to you soon.
It's always a pleasure. Bang, bang, Forza D'Ambrosio.
Forza Inter, Forza worldwide. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to all the links in the description, and we'll come at you soon with more content and more fire. From all of us here at Inter Worldwide, ciao ragazzi.
Right.